Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for another virtual dose of vitamin Z where we bring the Detroit Zoo to you. My name is Zahraa. I'm an education specialist at the Detroit Zoological Society where we celebrate and save wildlife every day. Today I'm going to be talking about a small primate who lives in a big social group, the ring-tailed lemur. Before we get started, I have some vocabulary words to go over. So we'll be talking about words like primates and army. Later on, I'll also have a game for you that takes a look at, that lets you practice playing with your social group. So before we get started talking about the ring-tailed lemur, let's travel to where they're from. So right over here is North America. And we're going to start off in Michigan, where the Detroit Zoo is located. You're going to want to fly over the Atlantic Ocean, east towards Africa. You'll get over the mainland right over here and end up at an island called Madagascar. And this island is the only place where ring-tailed lemurs are found. Now let's take a look at a ring-tailed lemur so we can discuss a little bit more about them. So this is one of the ring-tailed lemurs who lives at the Detroit Zoo. And some of their features include their skin, their fur. So they have a grayish brown fur. And then the inside of their body, this is on the back, and then on the inside of their body where their belly is, or the inside of their arms, or the inside of their legs and feet, they have white fur. So you can kind of see it poking out from over there. And then you can see their face. So as I mentioned earlier, they're not very big. They're only about 1.5 feet in size, so they're pretty small primates. All right, so how do they get their names? So they get their names from their tails. So they have these striped tails, or these tails that have rings in them, and they have a series of tails that alternate, or rings that alternate between black and white. 13 white tails in total, and you'll need that information later on for our game. All right. So, All right, ring-tailed lemurs live in groups. These groups are called armies. So a group of ring-tailed lemurs are called an army of ring-tailed lemurs. And they walk around foraging for food together. So what do they eat? They eat some flowers, they eat some fruit, they eat tree bark, some sap. So they are herbivores. They only eat vegetation. And they walk around together in these armies looking for food. And these armies can range in size from 3 lemurs in a group to up to 25. So it might be easy to get lost, but they have a special trait or a special way to walk to make sure that doesn't happen. All right. Oh. Here's my walk. So they walk with their tails standing straight up like this, and you can see here that their tails are really long. They're in fact longer than their bodies if they were to be standing up. They're slightly longer than their bodies. And they walk around with their tails up, and this helps wandering lemurs find their army and get back together with them. It's kind of like a flag just hanging up there, easy to spot and easy to find. All right, so let's go back to this picture right here. So what do they eat? We talked a little bit about what they eat, and we talked about how they eat fruits and berries and seeds and leaves, and how they work together to forage. So I want to talk a little bit now about the word I mentioned right at the beginning. So I said that they were primates. And what is a primate? I promised to define it, so let me give you an idea of what a primate is now. So primates are a group of animals who all have similar characteristics. Some of these characteristics include things like they have the ability to grab things with their hands, or they have smaller brains compared to or larger brains compared to their body size. They tend to be able to have more reasoning than other animals. They also live in complex social groups, so the way the lemurs live in their armies and can work together to hunt for food or forage for food and look around for food is another trait that all lemurs or all primates share. And let's talk about what animals are primates. So lemurs are definitely primates, as we mentioned. Another animal that's a primate would include things like, or animals like chimps and gorillas and monkeys. Another animal that matches all of these characteristics are humans. So I said that they can grab things with their hands. We have the ability to grab things with our hands. Primates also live in complex social groups, and you can tell that humans live and participate in complex social groups. We all have friends and family that we interact with. Primates also are also led by their vision. So when you're walking around, the number one thing that you're depending on is probably your vision, and that's something other primates also do when they're foraging. If they're foraging for food, they're looking with their eyes more than they are smelling with their nose, the way other animals would. One final thing I'm going to talk about today that primates share, or all primates share, is the ability to express emotion with their faces. So, as humans, we can show that we're happy, we can show that we're sad, and we can show that we're angry, all by changing our faces. And lemurs, ring-tailed lemurs also have that ability. They can show their emotions by moving their faces. Now, their expressions won't look exactly like ours. They have their own expressions, but they are expressions that show their emotion to each other. And it's a way that they can talk and communicate with one another. So, because they show so much expression and they show so much personality, that always ends up, let's step back. Their ability to show personality and expressions helps humans connect with them. We look at lemurs and we think they're really, really cute and they have so much personality. I think they'd make a great pet. But that's not the case. Lemurs, like other primates, don't do well in human households because they're not situated for living with humans. So I'm going to pull up a picture of a lemur right over here while I talk about them. All right, so they don't do well because they need social interaction. We talked about how they need social interaction with other people, or with other lemurs, so that they can forage for food together, they can interact, they can say hello, they can be friendly with one another. So these are all things that they need. Another thing they need is a lot of space. So lemurs move around about 3 miles a day. So they need space to move around with their social group and display their natural behaviors. And living in a person's house, usually they don't get that. Another thing is that these animals are usually taken from the wild. So when somebody sells a pet lemur, it's usually an animal that's been illegally poached from the wild. When this happens, the animal's harmed, the species is harmed because we're taking a lot of animals from the wild, and the population of lemurs is going down in the wild. And then lemurs living in stressful situations where their needs aren't met could display aggressive behaviors that put both the humans who take care of them and the lemur themselves in danger. So altogether, it's not a good situation for anybody. So I have some pictures of the lemurs who live at the Detroit Zoo I'm going to show as I talk about their rescue stories and how they came to live at the Detroit Zoo. All right, so the Detroit Zoo is home to 6 lemurs. The first 2 were rescued in 2010. They were taken from a exotic animal dealer in Texas, and their names are Finnegan and Molly. Remy was found wandering around in a residential area in Sacramento, and again, that's not the ideal situation for them, so they were confiscated and they needed a place to live, and the Detroit Zoo was able to provide that place. Another rescue animal was Warren, who was rescued here locally in Michigan. Warren was found in a home in Warren, Michigan, where again he was not receiving proper care and needed to be removed from that home. In 2010, Molly and Finnegan had 2 offspring, twins, Fajiri and Dallas. All right, so I have a few more pictures to show you. So here you can see that they're able to walk around in their habitat. There's a forest floor for them to move around in. And then they're also able to display normal behavior. So this looks like an odd pose right here. It looks kind of like they're being yoga masters, sitting with their legs open, with their hands on their knees, like they're posing. But this is actually something that a lot of ring-tailed lemurs do in the wild when they're with their army. So they'll all sit like this in the morning, try to get some sun and warm up before they're up and moving again. And then I have, all right, so these are the pictures I have to share with you. Now I'm going to give you an activity you can do about lemurs. So what you'll need a few supplies. Let's go back and look at the supplies. All right, you'll need a picture of a ring-tailed lemur with missing tail stripes, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. You'll also need 13 small strips of white paper, and that's just paper you can cut up. And then you'll need a partner. So I'm gonna play it. Well, I'm not really going to play it, but I'm going to show it to you on my own. But you would do it with your own social group of friends or family. So I have my cutout of a lemur here, and then you could see that the tail does not have the 13 stripes. You and your partner are going to take turns adding either 1 stripe or 2 at a time until you get to all 13. So you can add 1, and then your partner would add 2, and then maybe you'd add 1 again, all the way up until 13. Whoever adds the 13th stripe is the winner of the game. So as you play, you'll start to notice patterns on who's going to win, and you'll start to develop strategies on how to win and make sure that you are the person with the 13th stripe. So doing this activity gives you a chance to play a game and have some fun, but it also gives you a chance to practice some skills. So some of these skills include number sense and addition and subtraction as you're figuring out how to win. You can also practice some math reasoning and pattern recognition. All right, so if you discover a skill or a strategy that helps you win more often than not, I'd love to hear it because I haven't figured it out yet. You can let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Check back tomorrow at 11 for another virtual dose of vitamin C.